Welcome, welcome. Pursuit here, playing some Crash Landing, and I have set up a little system here to change the Camel Packs that you typically use into from empty to full just by throwing them in this chest here. Not all the pieces are on this yet because I wanted to test just how long it would take while I was doing it. So I have here a bunch of leaves, and as soon as I throw down a hopper on this, it's going to start filling up. I'm currently in creative mode. I'm going to go to survival mode also because I want to see how much water I use up and how long it takes to fill this thing up in the process. So let's go ahead and pull out, get ready to throw all this stuff together, and I will switch over to survival mode and we'll get it running. So here we go. Let's go to survival mode and we'll be on our way. So, survival mode, been updated. Throwing a chest on here, so we'll start pumping it into there. Good, that's going. It doesn't have to be exact here. I'm just trying to get a generalized idea of how long this is going to take. So let's get the Survivalist Generator going with some wood. You could usually probably put the coal in here too, but once you got it filled up, you probably want to use something that's a little less burning because this is probably just going to use up a little bit of power at a time. So the fluid transposer is powering up. Let's throw some bottles in here just to show that this will, well, it would be able to pull it over. This right here is to pull the bottles out of the chest. Now they're in the transposer, but I disconnected it because you typically don't need this. The way I've got it set up, they will automatically end up in the transposer anyways when they're empty. So it's got 3 parts here, and I'm kind of just trying to keep an eye on this as it's going to see how well it works. It's got plenty of power here. It only takes like 1600 I think to fill a bottle, so that's definitely going to be efficient enough. The generator, that's not a problem. I should have a pack on because I need to see how much I'm actually using up myself. And then I'm hoping once I get 4 bottles worth of water in here, we can actually track how long it will take. But let me explain the system here while I'm letting it do its thing, because we are still quite a ways off. We haven't even filled 1 bottle yet, and it's going really quickly here. It's not going really quickly, it's going really slowly. So currently, if you've played this Crash Landing before, you'll notice that your heat stuff down here, the hotter you are, the faster you're going to use up water. If you get heat stroke, you can use it up even faster. I put a full pack on here so I could kind of simulate what might happen, and I'm just wearing some typical armor, so it's not too bad for using up your heat, but I'm just trying to see if this system will keep up with my water consumption. The Crucible here does 0.2 millibuckets per tick when it's above lava. I'm not sure how much different it would be above a torch. I'm assuming a torch wouldn't be very good, probably less than 0.2. If you use the pyrotheum, you get like 0.7, which is really good and definitely efficient enough, but you can start fires all over the place. So I'm trying to see if this is efficient enough to do what I need. But as you see, I got leaves coming down into the hopper, into the Crucible. They're heating up. The machine inventory manager from Steve's Factory Manager is doing the job of moving all the inventory around. You could do this with most of this with Itemducts and Fluiducts. The only part you can't do would be the crafting. So the way I've got this set up here, the crafting, this is the only part you couldn't do with ducts. So let me go ahead and show you how that part works. So these, I've labeled all the triggers with individual parts so you can see what's going on here. But what we've got going on here is we've got this chest, not the one that was up top, but the one that's down here. This chest is where we're getting the items from, and we don't care which side. I just selected the down side. I don't know if you guys have used this, but it's not too hard to set up. And then we've got, I've whitelisted water bottles. And you just select them by clicking on it, typing it in. Let me show you. I'll just go ahead and type it in You select water, click on it, it's done, and then I've set it to do 4 for the crafting. Because we're trying to fill this pack all the way up. It takes 4 bottles to fill it up. You do the same with this. You just click on it, type in Camel Pack. The one thing you do have to make sure that you do correctly on this, if you right click, you need to change this to 100, because 100 means it's totally empty. If it's anything else, it will not work correctly. So the precision detection and letting it know that it's the empty one that you want to pull out. So you could leave full one sitting in this chest here, just waiting for when you need it. Okay, we've got 1 bottle filled up so far. That's nice to see. It's still going a bit. We got 1, and we're less than 25% lost on our fluids here. So that's sounding like it's going to keep up with it, even when I'm standing here next to the fire. It is nighttime now, coming up on morning. Well, it's morning now, I guess. It was nighttime, so this is a good example of a typical usage here. And we're, I don't know, about 5 minutes in, I guess. So what else we've got going on here? I showed the input, the crafting. We've got the Camel Pack, and you have to set it up the same way you did the other part. Make sure you got the 100%, the 100 on the damage value, so it's an empty one, and then put 4 water bottles in here, typing it in and clicking on it. That will give us a full pack. And the excess inventory, I have got the excess inventory set to go to the fluid transposer, so it will just dump it right into the fluid transposer. You could send it to the chest if you used this setup also to pull it back out of the chest, but I don't see the point in that. We can just do it all together. The only thing that's going to be excess is empty bottles, so that shouldn't be a problem. And then the output we've got going back to the chest. So it's going to dump the items back into the chest, and it doesn't matter where. I just chose down because it was the first section, and we have whitelisted. It's important you whitelist it here, or else it'll just pull the empty one out of the chest and throw it back in the chest. It doesn't, unless you whitelist or blacklist things, but blacklisting doesn't seem to work very well. So I whitelisted the Camel Pack. So it's not gonna let it pull through unless you do the Camel Pack. And this one's different from the other places I set it up. Rather than putting 100, you put 0, because 0 means it's totally full. I know it kind of sounds backwards, but that's just the way things work here. So when we have 4 bottles, this process will be able to happen. Right now we've only got 1 that's through. Looks like we're getting plenty of power still here, so you could probably charge a battery pack while you were doing this also. Our water is at 66%. I have been standing next to the fire here, the heat area here. If I was standing farther away, we would drop down to about 38. I'm going a little bit above 38 the way I was doing it. If you're running around a lot and you're jumping and hitting, you probably use your water up a little faster if you're not keeping up with your, if you're outside a lot, if you run out of food, you're going to run into problems doing that anyways. So, but if you hit heat stroke, you're going to have problems. So try and keep up with that. I'm just trying to keep an idea of how much. So we're at 62%, and I'm thinking we're probably going to keep up with it okay. We'll have to see where we get to. But if right now, if I drop this in here, it doesn't even acknowledge that it can do anything, because it needs to have a Camel Pack and 4 full bottles. So it's not going to let me fill that one up right now. Like I said, don't be standing around the water a lot. We're actually using up quite a bit here. There we go, we got 1 filling up. So, you know, even with me standing right next to it, I haven't even hit the 50% mark, and I've filled up 2 bottles, which is a good sign that it's going to keep up with the usage here. The transposer here is set up. I don't think I didn't have to do anything with the redstone, because it's nothing sending any signals that I'm worried about. But I put the, which way is that? That's the west direction. The west I put as the input, and the east I put as the output. It doesn't really matter which ones you do, you just have to know it for moving the fluids and stuff around. So we're still working on getting these full. Let me show you the other things that I've got going here. We showed you the filling the Camel Pack, and you could put these all on the same trigger if you wanted to, but I've separated them so you can see them individually. You can put them all on the same trigger if you used a flow thing and flipped it around to splitting it to multiple connections. You could do that also. So they would all be just on one trigger, but I don't really see the point in having to do that, especially for my demonstration here. Okay, so the next part we're going to want, and I'm trying to do these in what's the most important part. So both of these you could do with you could do this with Itemducts and this with Fluiducts, but to pull I got this one set for full bottles to the chest. So we're saying that when the bottles are full here, it's pulling them out and moving them to the chest over here. So these bottles were in there before, and now they're down there. So very simple to set this up. You're saying, okay, the fluid transposer, and remember we set the east side as the output. So that's why I've selected the east side and activated it there. And it doesn't matter, we can just leave it blacklisted because there's only one item that's going to be there, and it's just pulling to a chest. So you don't have to set that part. The output, we're pointing to the chest. We don't care what side, so I just chose the down side, and we don't need to whitelist anything, so I just left it blacklist. So that one's really easy to set up too. Let's see how we're doing here. We've still got a little while to go. How's our water usage? We're at 38%. It's going to be close with me standing next to this, but this is actually a good demonstration of if you had a hard day and you were getting a lot of heat exposure, you would be using up the water like this. But we're still going to stand a little ways away from it, so we're not over exaggerating. I don't know if this generator's putting out power too, but the lava is definitely putting out heat. Well, the generator putting out heat is what I was trying to say, not power. Of course it's putting out power, but the lava is putting out heat, so that's going to be problematic. The other part that we've got here is the water to the transposers. So what I'm saying is pulling it out of the Crucible and putting it into the transposer. And like I said, I put the input for the left side here, which is the, what did I say, west. And you want to make sure that you toggle this thing correctly too, so it's, if you flip this around the other way, it's going to try and put it in versus pulling it out. And if they're both blue, you're going to be working it correctly so you can fill up the bottles. So the last part of this is the water to the transposers, and we're going to be using the fluid ones. Before we're using the create input and output here, and with the triggers and the crafter, which was that one right there, the auto crafter. This time we need to, for liquids, you have to do the create liquid input and liquid output. Both of those are ones that I used for over there, but we don't need these. I was just showing that I actually created them. So what we're going to do here is the input, and these triggers are all set on the default. They're at 1 second, so that's pretty easy to set up. You don't have to worry about it. So the input from these tanks are from the Crucible, and I put it to the east side just because that was next to it. I'm sure it would work on any of the sides. I don't think it works on the top or bottom. I just know it works on it would work on the north, south, east, and west. I just put it on the east because that's the one right next to the transposer, and it just seemed to make sense. And there's only one fluid in there, so I didn't have to whitelist anything, just left it on the blacklist default. And the output is to the transposer, and I put it to the west side because that was the setting that we put inside the transposer was for the west side. And once again, nothing to blacklist. So it's really not very hard to set up these two over here. You could do them with Fluiducts, but if you don't have the Fluiducts, or you don't want to use the extra block space that it takes for them, or either the new the levers or pneumatic servos, that will save you from having to do that. So we've got one more bottle going here. So we got 3 of them right now. My current water usage is 15% left. I've been standing over by that quite a bit, so I'm actually kind of, it would probably benefit me to step back here a little bit. But I've been using it pretty heartily, kind of just to see if it could keep up with it. We've got, that's about half a bottle's worth there, and I think we're at almost half a bottle, so I may run out right before it finishes. Let's see if I end up lasting a little bit better. It's been about 10 minutes filling that up, and my calculation was that it would take about 16 minutes to fill that up. It's been about 15 minutes now. I was calculating about 16 minutes is what it would take to finish smelting all this water in the Crucible. So that's looking about what it's at. It looks like this will probably keep up with it pretty darn close to what I need it to do. And I've shown all of the pieces here except for this part here, which is just telling it to move the bottles. I've told it to move whitelisted bottles to move from the chest, and this is kind of the extra part. I'm just showing you this while I'm waiting for it to finish filling up, and then I'm putting it into the fluid transposer through the west side, which is the input, and we don't really have to whitelist anything because there's only one type of inventory item flowing through that. So we should almost be here. How are we doing? We are at 800, and then once, since this is still not full, this doesn't do anything putting it in here. It needs 4 bottles to fill up. It has been the daytime, so we're in the hottest time. I wasn't outside, I was inside, but I was standing right next to that lava. So yeah, it's pretty bad. Got 100 left, and my water level is gone. So you may have to individually fill bottles, or have 2 of these crucibles going, or maybe be using the system where you make dirty water. I would recommend 2 crucibles if anything, and just drop leaves into both of them and maybe manually fill some water bottles, or set it up to fill from both of them. Okay, it looks like it just kicked in, so it actually kept up pretty good. I just barely ran out of water there. But the last part of this is the crafting. When I drop this in here, it will automatically fill it up and throw the bottles into the transposer. So there we go. That was really nice and quick. It's already thrown them over to the transposer, and it's waiting to fill them up again. We throw this back on my back. We get me going. So that was actually almost perfectly. This 0.2 millibucket tick is pretty close to what you need. You might need to, like I said, throw in another transposer, or do some dirty water that you convert in a furnace to regular water. But it seems to be pretty efficient. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions about how this system works, please feel free to put down some comments. I'll try and respond. But this has been Pursuit. Thanks for watching, and have a good day.